we're going to be talking about your feminine and even sexual health. People are living in fear and shame and isolation with some of these struggles.
I feel as Christians, we really should and can have the best, most exciting sex lives. I still want to be a Christian, I still want to love God, but I want a sex drive. I want that for my marriage. And the health benefits from covenant sex.
For a woman, you get a 5-fold increase of oxytocin. So that is a special stress-busting gift just for women in married sex.
I want you guys to talk to that woman that right now is out there. How does she go from this place of being sexually shut down to becoming back alive again?
If you're close to 40 or past 40 or you're in your 60s, maybe 70s, and you just feel so like this for the younger ones, I would say.
Well, welcome to another show. I am so excited. Listen, we pay attention to what you pay attention to. And today I have some guests on that are going to be talking about your health, not just any health, but we're going to be talking about your feminine and even sexual health. Yes, we said sexual because that is such an intricate, sacred part of who you are as a woman. So if you're a guy right now and you think, well, this probably shouldn't involve me. Well, if you're married, you should probably listen in because I think you are going to want to hear about this. And so today I'm hosting the authors of Trim and Healthy Mama, who just now have a new book called Trim and Healthy Wisdom. Because as we get older, we get smarter, we get wiser. And this book, I don't even know if you can see it. This book, you could hurt somebody with this book. I mean, this thing is so thick. All the books I've ever written in my entire life have never put together to be this thick. So I'm so excited to welcome both Pearl and Serene. Thank you for coming to the Lisa Bevere podcast. I cannot wait to introduce you to our women.
We are so honored to be here.
Oh, I got to come out to your barn and be with you guys. You guys were so much fun.
Courageous in coming out to our barn.
I did end up at the chicken farm.
Illegal
with the rooster cockfighting. I was like, what in the world? Why am I here? So
That was your introduction to us.
Yeah.
Yes.
yeah. Well, I had met you virtually,
That's true.
so I wasn't completely surprised that would be involved in meeting you in real life. Okay, so listen, why write this book?
It's just time, right? And we're nerds. That's why it's big.
You're nerds. Okay.
We love to research. Grew up that way, right? We're third generation crunchy. Meaning
From Australia. You guys hear an accent. They're from Oz.
Oh, it's so weak now. It's kind of a mutt accent, kind of lost in the ocean between Australia and New
Don't
Zealand.
call
and here.
American accents mutt. Don't
No,
do it.
we're
We're the
mutt.
mutt.
Oh, okay.
We're
Because-
between the oceans of, it's not, we were born in New Zealand, but our accent's not like that.
Oh.
Or true Australian or true American. We're just
Oh, wait,
mutt.
so I lied. You're New Zealanders.
That's our
You're
passport
Kiwis.
still, yeah. Yeah.
I stand corrected. They're not from Oz. They're from...
But another
Keyword
reason
world.
we wrote this book is the cry of desperation.
Yeah.
We wrote Trim Healthy Mama, and we had foundational precepts in there for health, food, diet, mental health. But there was something missing, and that was hormones and tweaking things as you go through that change and as you go on the journey of that slippery slope of perimenopause. Things that were working for women, things that they all had ticked, their boxes ticked. All of a sudden we're like, my body's betraying me. I don't know what's happening.
It does feel like a
Nothing
betrayal. I
is
feel like that's
working.
very accurate.
Yeah. I went through it. I'm like, well, I'm the founder with Serene of this movement. I'm doing all the right things. I'm eating salmon and salad. I'm not eating junk food. And yet my body was changing in ways that I couldn't understand. Like, the belly was getting bigger and the jeans at the back were looser, all in the wrong areas. And I'm like, what is going on? And really this is just a big deep dive into all things hormonal that relate to woman and how to use food as medicine during this time, but how to use other things as well. And also that sexual component. Hormones, as they change, affect how we feel, how we move, how we think, how we pretty much do everything. And really this book is a big deep dive into how to optimize them. And
It's not dry. And
Did you say it's not dry?
It's not dry.
Because we don't want people to think this is not just a research book.
No.
Yeah.
And, we've
very
summarized,
practical.
every chapter has a summary, so you could read it in a couple of paragraphs, and then has bullets. So if you just want to go to the end of each chapter, then we will...
It'll hurt your heart, but you'll make it easy. And then
Yes.
what'll happen is they'll go to the end of each chapter and they'll say, I need to go back and read it all. Okay, so how old were you when you went through menopause?
48, when I went through that time, that was like no
Perimenopause or-
no,
No.
full menopause at 48, where you stop having periods for 12 months. Now before that,
Wow.
it was like 8
Isn't
years
that kind of young?
Well, they say before 45 is officially young. So woman anywhere between 45 to like 55 is average, with the real average being 51.
Wow. Okay, because I was 57.
Yeah, that's
So
late.
yeah, is that late?
That's
okay.
late.
And I figured that was
Yeah.
just all having 4.7 million miles
Yeah.
on United had thrown me into it before my 60s. So I just figured
That's
that. Okay,
hilarious.
that's interesting. Now you're perimenopausal.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
but I actually jumped on the train of hormonal restoration, so I'll probably never go into menopause. Yeah.
I mean, your ovaries won't, release
won't-
eggs.
they won't-
of
No,
course.
no,
Yes.
no. I'm not going to be having babies when I'm like 82 or anything. But
That would be fun.
yeah, actually. But my sister went through so much. I watched her struggle before me, and I'm like, I don't know if I want to walk down that gangplank. And she got in my face one day and said, Serene, if I could give you any advice, don't do what I did and allow your body to get totally tanked and then try and,
But isn't
Get
that
it
where
all
most
back.
women are?
I think so.
They're at the total
and I
tank.
think, yes, there's a total tank. There's such confusion, though. For me, not even my body changes so much, but my mental changes. I thought I was in early dementia. I was worried. Because
Wow.
I was, I'm a researcher. We do podcasts, we speak, we talk with doctors all the time, and I could barely remember my last sentence. I would research and have to read the same paragraph over and over. I don't know if you experienced that, but my brain fog was so intense, I was worried for myself. And
I
then,
counteracted it with shots of espresso. So I just kept raising my intake of caffeine. I'm not sure that was the best thing, but that is what I did. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, whatever I tried, it just didn't work for
Sure.
me. And I mean, estrogen and even testosterone, those hormones fuel our brain. They fuel our mental clarity.
And progesterone gives you that
Yeah.
balm. It's like the balm of Gilead. It's your relaxing hormone,
Yeah,
It's so important.
And so we just did a deep dive into all the. I think it's so confusing for women. Like we hear so much out there right now. Should we just go natural, or should we optimize? Or hold on, my doctor told me I can't. Or hold on, I'm a post breast cancer survivor. What do I do? And there's so many voices and so many people telling us what we should or shouldn't do. And really, this book is all about, hey, here is a pathway for your unique situation. Whatever you're faced with, there's a way.
Information to help you make that right choice for you,
Yeah.
because that's going to look different for many, many women. Many women, they'll be like, yeah, I want to optimize my hormones. Others are going to be like, it's not for me. So we have rocks in here. We have foundational steps that have been tweaked from just the average run of the mill, health ways, and tweaks to really rock 40 and beyond and feel fabulous as you age. And to kind of not look at that future as like in fear, almost like, I feel like all I have before me is just getting a little, more fragile or a little more rusty every year. But no, I just feel like there's so much hope, especially in our modern era too, with science and cutting edge science married to, foundational ancient wisdom where a woman can thrive well into her 90s.
Yeah.
I'm going for 120 actually.
If you're enjoying this podcast, I want to challenge you about partnering with us. We are so excited about a partnership program. We're going to be bringing you exclusive content. So you want to get in on the ground floor, go ahead and click the link below. Wow, that's okay. First of all, that is amazing. And I'm sure you guys, because you're so much more thoroughly researched, they're finding out that a lot of the basis of, no estradiol, that'll cause breast cancer. They're finding out that all of those studies were not accurate. And so women have been denied estradiol, and then they have dementia, and then they have osteoporosis, and then they have, problems with all sorts of other health issues, like you're talking about brain fog, and the vibrancy of their entire body's health is compromised. So let's talk about why that would happen. I did hear somebody say that if a man was being subjected to the things a woman goes through when her hormones drop, people would have been making changes right away. But why? Why don't women want to take care of themselves?
I think they want to now that it's okay to talk about it. But
I think they wanted to back then, but they didn't know they could. It was such a taboo
It was just like,
subject.
put your big girl pants on and go through it. Your mother went through it, her mother. But it's amazing because you're talking about those study that came out, the WHI study in 2002, and it rocked the entire world. It was so sensational. It said hormones, when you take them, after you've gone through menopause at that time, will give you cancer and will cause, stroke. That was the big thing. Causes cancer, causes stroke. And so doctors everywhere just stopped prescribing them. Women just stopped taking them. But guess what went up? Antidepressants went up. Prozac went up. That whole industry suddenly exploded because hormones are our beautiful neurotransmitters in our brain.
And that's a kind of the interesting thing. People say, well, I just want to be natural, so I'm never going to go on hormones because I just want to be natural. Well, they actually don't opt for a thing that is very bioidentical when you do the bioidentical molecules of hormones, and then your body knows it's like lock and key, like this is made for me kind of thing. They usually end up on the heart medicine, on the blood pressure lowering,
very unnatural.
on the antidepressants, on the when the bones,
Oh, the osteoporosis,
yes,
osteoporosis or whatever.
Yes.
Yeah.
They have to get on all of that.
Which
So in
makes
the
your
end-
bones hard but brittle.
Right.
Yes.
They're taking more medication. And so
But I heard it like this. It's really interesting. This doctor said, when you're talking about that study, which looked at synthetic hormones, and yes, there was a slight increase in breast cancer and stroke. I mean, later they decided it wasn't really an increase, but it was slight. The hormones used were synthetic. So, and this doctor said, look at it like this. It was like our hormones, estrogen, testosterone, progesterone, think of them as a strawberry. And now think of the synthetic ones as a strawberry jelly bean.
Okay,
So
that's quite a difference. One
it's a
is
completely
a
different
fake
thing.
flavored,
Yes.
and one is an actual
It's got-
organic
it's
substance.
got dyes in it, it's got
Okay.
chemicals, it's got sugar, it's got toxins, it's foreign to the body, whereas a strawberry, your body knows what to do with it. And the study was on the strawberry jelly bean.
Wow.
And yet the whole world shunned hormones, and really until this day, when the science is coming out.
Yeah. It's tragic. You mentioned strokes and breast cancer, and my mother had both a stroke and breast cancer, and she did not ever do any of the natural hormones. And I'm just often wondering, would she still be here?
Well, that's the thing.
There was a loss of life pretty young.
Yeah.
So
A lot of those diseases, they come after 40. They come when a woman has gone through menopause. You don't really hear about dementia in people before menopause. You don't hear about osteoporosis. You don't hear about stroke. And stroke becomes the leading killer of women, even above men. Because estradiol, our estrogen, is cardiac protective.
Wow.
It's bone protective. It's
So
brain
it's not
protective.
just that women are working more and have more stress. It's that they have this compounded stress and no hormonal support.
Well, you take a woman who's 60 and you take a man who is 60. The average woman not on hormone restoration has less estrogen than a man who is 60.
Yes.
When
I know that's
yes,
true because I know
because-
John has more estrogen than me.
Yeah. Men might have like 35,
Yes.
40. A woman may have 2, 3. So our heart's not even protected as a man at that age. But it's just amazing because now the studies are coming out. There was one came out 2024 last year that followed 10 million women. And actually, they had less breast cancer when they were taking bioidentical, that's the key word, bioidentical hormones. But I think we're not just sitting here and saying, well, you must go on bioidentical
No, not at
hormones
all.
because, as Serene said, if you can't, and they're not for everybody, there are things that you can do, and that's what we really talk about in this book. Your bones are going to lose minerals. So what do you do about that? well, you got to strength train.
Right.
Well, you got to eat your protein.
Your
you know?
muscles are going to be wasting after 30. Sarcopenia. And especially as you lose your hormones, which are anabolic in nature, then it's like a freight train. So, but there are things you can do to turn that around. Strength training, being nerdy about protein, at least 4 servings a day.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, but now I've heard that that's kind of difficult for women to consume enough protein. Can you give me an example? What does that look like on a daily basis?
Well, we're protein nerds.
Yeah.
Yes, that's why I'm asking you.
But it doesn't mean so many women, they start to hear, you know, it's all the rage right now. Well, we need more protein. And so suddenly so many women going out and eating just like huge chunks of meat.
And it's true.
Yes,
when
yes,
you
yes,
post 40, you need more protein than you've ever needed in your life.
How interesting.
I mean, 18-year-old boys can grow muscle on white bread. I mean, they have that insulin anabolic, you know, pathway, and they can make muscle out of carbohydrate. But, you know, we don't have that. And when we're older, we have that lutein pathway, and we need it stimulated by amino acids. And so, you know, we get nerdy about not just having around 25 grams of protein in a meal. We get nerdy about having at least 3 grams of lutein, because that's the amino acid.
What is lutein?
It's your boss. Like, so you got 8 essential amino acids. And what are amino acids? They're the things that, you know, say to your muscles, build, stay around.
They are protein in little building blocks.
Okay.
And so now some foods have an abundant amount, and they are your meat, your fish, your like cottage cheese, your Greek yogurt.
Okay.
A pack of tuna, it has 3 grams of lutein.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so all those things.
This is the first I've ever heard this word.
But pea
lutein.
protein and a little special expensive plant protein pack with lovely artwork on it from your local health food place does not have 3 grams of lutein.
No, okay.
And it's good protein in itself, but
some
it
lutein.
won't protect that muscle. So I was back to that thing. So some women hear, okay, need protein, you know, I'm going to just have these huge chunks of meat at every meal. But once they've lost their lean body mass, their muscles are smaller, and they're striated with fat droplets, right? And
You know, like
I'm going to like start
like
covering.
the marbled steak that you go eat at
Yes,
a restaurant.
yes.
That's what our muscles are like. Post 30, they get more and more like that every year.
More
we get
marbled.
lovely marbling with the fat.
It's just insulin resistance.
Even skinny woman.
Yeah.
Skinny
No.
fat. But so then,
I know that.
So then it's like, okay, got to get my protein in. You know, I'm going to eat this 12-ounce steak, you know, and I'm going to have just a bunch of meat at every meal. And their muscles are like, hold on, I can't take you in.
Their lean muscle tissue is small, so they have small cupboards. And so they're like, no room. And that's why we get insulin resistance too, especially
Okay.
post-menopause, because, you know, we need cupboards to put that blood sugar in. And when the cupboards are small, it's our lean muscle tissue is small, it's like I can't take in that blood sugar, and I can't take in those amino acids. So our main theme is build back your lean muscle tissue and cleanse it from those fatty striations. And we have
With plants.
ways of doing that. Yeah.
Plants cleanse your muscles. But here's the thing.
And you have all this outlined in your book.
But
Yes.
but I don't want people to think, well, I can't eat meat. Well, what do I eat? I need protein. I can't eat meat. You can. It's just that 4 to 6 ounce, that medium amount, that's what your muscles can use right now. And when you build them back, hey,
Oh,
go
have
eat
the
your big
steak.
steak.
Then you can have more.
Sure.
Okay. Because I am a carnivore. I mean,
Oh,
I can eat more
like
than
your
my
meat?
husband can when it comes to
Yes.
meat. Yes, I can. But
And we're all about that. We're all
but
about
I don't
animal
want it
foods.
to not be in my cupboards. I don't want marbling. I don't want
Right,
that. I don't
yeah.
want that. No, I love what you're saying. So what you're saying is you need to rebuild your lean muscle. What does that look like? I heard resistance, but what does resistance look like?
Well, Pearl and I used to love to walk. We loved it. It felt like self-care. We'd listen to podcasts like a little Lisa Bevere in the ears, you know. It was enjoyment.
Yeah.
But then we realized we got to listen to those podcasts maybe a little somewhere else, because we may not be able to get our walk in every day, because we're going to get in the gym and we're going to lift. Because even though
So weight training.
weight
Yeah.
training. And it doesn't even have to be your personality. Like Pearl, Princess Pearl, she hates the clang of iron. I love the clang of iron. Like I feel it in my bones. But Pearl's like, I don't want to. But now she's like, it
I don't wanna
doesn't matter. My future depends on it. My ability to be a burning body depends on it. And that's what we want to create in your wisdom years. You know, once you passed 40, and even to learn about it in your 30s so that you can be preemptive, is to create a burning body through caring about your lean muscle tissue, because that's going to have cupboards that say, hey, feed me the blood glucose and feed me the amino acids.
But I mean, you know, she's the person that loves it. I'm the person that hated it, right? But I realized after menopause, well, where's my lean muscle? It's gone.
Yeah.
My jeans are hanging.
I got in her face.
I got nothing here, you know.
I'm like,
And,
girl,
so-
you're looking fragile.
No, I'm identifying with Princess Pearl. I'm identifying.
I didn't want to do it because I'm just, let me walk. Walking's great for me. No, it's good for my brain. I love it. And then I realized, but I'm not putting on muscle. And then I researched, and it's like, what puts on muscle? Well, there's only one thing. You got to lift weights, baby.
Yeah,
And that's
it
what
has
helps
to
with
be
the
impact.
bones.
It has
because you need weight on your bones. But they actually say obesity doesn't actually do that. It does not.
Yeah, so gaining weight is not
it's
going to make
gaining
stronger
muscle
bones. It's
that
gaining.
gains-
And
yeah.
so, you know what? I started so small. I mean, I kind of started with Barbie weights. It's all I could do, you know. And then like just 10 minutes, I got to 20 minutes. I only do 25 minutes 3 times a week. I have built an entire new body. I can eat. I can eat lots of calories.
She even gets her tiramisu out, you know.
I mean,
As she should.
On the
As she
whole,
should.
I'm healthy, but
Yes.
you know, one meal doesn't throw me off. I'm not insulin resistant anymore. It's so powerful, and it is so incredible, and it's so doable.
So what I'm actually hearing is where most women have this mindset that I need to punish my body. My body does not look good anymore. My body is not performing well anymore. I need to punish it. I need to lift weights to get.
Yeah.
What I hear is I need to love it. I need to rebuild it. I need to restore it. Is what I'm hearing from you.
Because it's totally what you're hearing. Because we are not saying anyone has to, or you have to. You have to start doing this because you're this age now. That's awful.
But why is it that women have such a hard time loving their bodies?
Well,
That could be. I know that.
That's
could
a
be,
whole
There could
nother
be
subject.
15
Yeah, it's
points.
15 layers.
But if we can't get to some of this at least, because when I was working on my last book, I had such a revelation that women do not believe that their bodies are fearfully and wonderfully made, except for maybe during childbirth. They're like, that was fearful and wonderful.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
men have absolutely no problem thinking their bodies are fearfully and wonderfully made. My husband's like, can you even believe it? Can you even believe I look this good?
I think it's a good and a bad, because I think men are less self-aware, and we women, we're blessed, but we're cursed with being so self-aware. And I think that's why, on the whole, we're more interested than our husbands. It's not always this way in, well, healthy eating and things like that. But then, you know, life gets busy, we get stressed, everyone falls off the wagon. But, you know, even as health authors, and we've worked with hundreds of thousands of women for the last 10 years. And at first we're all about, hey, this will help you get lighter. You know, you'll lose weight. We're not even about that anymore. We're not about taking something off you.
Yeah.
We're about building something into you. And when your whole mindset changes from lighter to stronger, weight takes care of itself.
or having to lose weight to, I'm creating a burning body.
Yeah.
So
your trim isn't about skinny. Your
Not
trim
at
is
all.
yeah.
And if there is excess inflammatory weight, because we're not about these skinny minis, but inflammatory weight, because that's unhealthy, it will happen as you get stronger, as you create this burning body, which is a fun, exciting journey, because you're not focusing on weight loss. That will happen. That excess inflammatory weight will just fall off and it'll be like, oh, it's gone. But it wasn't your focus.
Yeah.
But back to that have to. No, have to that's just a sad mindset, because it's the get to. I mean, you think of the fact that I get to go in the gym. I mean, I have a few weights at home, so I'm not going and, having to drive 45 minutes and
Right.
then, get ready and then drive back. It's not a big deal to me. I just get in my own little home gym. But I get to, what an honor, what a privilege. I mean, you ask somebody in a wheelchair, hey, like, you could tonight, can you imagine if you got the chance to go to a Zumba and just let loose and have fun, like move your body? They'll be like, oh, if I could ever get the chance again.
Yes.
Like the fact that we
yes.
get to, what an honor to move our God-given bodies. I mean, it's incredible. There's no have to about it. It's a lens change.
Yeah, and it is a lens change, because when the Bible says present your body a living sacrifice, holy and acceptable to God, I think most women see their bodies as holy, WHOLLY, unacceptable. Like it's either not strong enough, not thin enough, not pretty enough, not young enough. So there's a constant unacceptable, and yet God is calling our bodies holy and acceptable. So what I'm hearing from is when I have been given something that is holy and acceptable, I need to treat it like that.
To whom much is given, much is required too.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
You know, and was it Paul who said, I would that you be in health just as your soul prospers.
Yeah.
Your body will prosper too. And I think that we're all on a journey, right? Finding our peace, finding our faith, finding our hope in our Creator, day by day. But I think sometimes we completely separate that from our physical selves. But we're in this tent, and I look at it like, hey, this work that's been done on my inside, I want to kind of represent too. I want to be strong as my soul gets strong. I want them to go on this path together rather than, am I enough? Am I skinny enough? Am I beautiful enough? Am I young enough? I'm not young enough. I'm not all those things.
Yeah.
But am I representing life?
Yeah.
Am I representing this feeling of vitality that I have in my inner man? Is the world seeing it on this billboard? It doesn't have to look size 2 or size 0 or size whatever. It doesn't have to look perfectly airbrushed. But does it exude life?
Does it look strong?
Yeah.
Does it look healthy?
Yeah.
And I do think people are looking for more and more of the genuine. And I think we're all realizing, and again, I'm not trying to shame our government, but I mean, hey, there's a reason why all the people have said, we want to see America healthy again.
Yeah.
We want to make America healthy again. And they've realized that there has been a push to a debasing of the American health with what we eat and what we experience in our environment and what we're constantly being told, fear and stress and you're never good enough, you're never this enough. So I love that you're actually saying, I'm going to give you wisdom because we have tons of knowledge. We don't, there's so much knowledge on the internet.
I know.
But we have so little transformation because people don't have wisdom. So I love that you've got trim, healthy wisdom. Okay, so now you guys know that one of my most popular podcasts last season was about sex over 60.
Oh, it's our favorite subject.
Yeah, so let's talk about this because this is an area that is under attack.
Yeah.
It is.
This is an area that is sacred.
Yeah.
And I think that the church does not talk about it. It either talks about it in a shameful way, that it's shameful and shut it down, or it talks about it in a perverse way. And so I want you guys to talk to that woman that right now is out there and she's like, I feel so unattractive. I feel so undesirable. This is a part of my life that's completely shut down and it's actually robbing her and her husband. Like, how does she go from this place of being sexually shut down to becoming back alive again? Like, what is that process? I know it probably starts in her head, but take her on that journey because I have all of these different feedbacks. I have people saying, I want to have sex, but my husband doesn't want to have sex with me.
Yeah, I want to talk about that today.
And then I have women that say, my husband wants to have sex, but I don't want to have sex with him.
Yeah.
And then my husband, we're never intimate, and now I'm catching him on porn. I'm hearing all of these different things, and people are living in fear and shame and isolation with some of these struggles.
Yeah.
It's so true. And I think we were talking on the way here as we were driving here, we love that podcast that you did, Sex Over 60, and you talked something about, it was, you said that the different tangents, the extremes, and you mentioned toxic purity
I loved
too.
that
Yeah.
because nobody had ever said it just like that. And I loved it because either extreme is dangerous.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's extremely dangerous.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, and so I
because
think-
purity could never be toxic if
I
it's
know.
taught right.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
Right.
So, I mean, yes, and we hear this same thing from women too. I have to say, it's a big thing. We're all very different, but I talk to women who, maybe they've been married 20, 30 years, and they're like, Pearl, I would love to feel passion for my husband. I would love to feel a libido, a sexual desire. It's gone and I can't even find it.
It's almost like, you actually said, if I can be personal, when her hormones totally went out of her, she's like, why would people do that?
like I was always, my husband and I have been married for 31 years, and we
We're
had
done.
intimacy, but I couldn't understand when my hormones left me. We're just going to say it on this podcast. the vagina dries up for many women, and it can even hurt. You don't feel like you used to as a young woman. Like you said, you don't feel lush. My brain space told me I was a dried up woman whose youth had left her.
And she just needs to do more Bible
Knitting.
studies
Yeah,
now.
Bible studies and knitting for me, you know. And yet I still loved that closeness. I didn't need the intimacy. And it wasn't psychological. I don't have trauma in my past. We haven't had a history of porn, all those things. It was, for me, it was just my hormones. And so for me,
So you're saying there was pain?
Yes, it was it was
'Cause
like sandpaper.
I have had a woman tell me, why are we not? I mean, we were away at an event, and she said, I need to tell you something. She said, I went through, after I went through menopause, a period where I could not. I could not because of the pain. And she said, why is nobody talking about this? And she said, when I got on bioidenticals, everything changed. She said, and she said, do you know how hard that was on my marriage?
On your husband?
Yes, that's
and
what she was saying.
Your husband doesn't want to hurt you.
And
the
the
last
same
thing he
thing.
wants to do is say, come on, have sex.
And
you're
the
in
same
pain.
thing you said,
Yeah.
there are many, women that are saying they would love to have sex with their husbands, but their husband has lost desire.
zero interest.
Or
It's
he
the
has
same
ED.
thing. He may have
There's an
hormonal decline.
epidemic of type 2 diabetes, blood sugar, insulin resistance
And-
with men, and it's causing ED, and that's hard for him. It's hard for his wife.
Yeah.
So many couples
And-
over 40 are going through a tough time physically.
Sadly, testosterone these days, I
They're
don't know what
saying
it
it's
is,
like-
on the decline.
Like the 20-year-old men have the testosterone levels
Yes.
of the 65-year-old
Yeah.
men from years past.
And that's going back to what you were talking about.
Yeah.
This whole nation, we've been riddled with toxins, with plastics and all those things. And I'm glad there's a change coming. I think it's time because it is evident in the hormones of our young people.
And I just want to say, that scripture you just brought up just a little while ago, and you're like, beloved, I wish that you would prosper and be in good health, even as your soul prospers. The Bible wasn't written just for the days of yore. It was written for 2025 and beyond and beyond and beyond. God's word is ever the right time, right? So there is a way for us to be in good health. And I love the fact that I don't know what was in the earth ages ago where Moses could say when he was 100 and whatever, my bones are still filled with sap, and Joshua
my
was
eyes
it?
haven't faded.
Right. Let me take the high country now. Maybe I'm stronger than when I was 40. But God he always provides for whatever season. So maybe we're not into this in this perfect world with the perfect soil and the perfect non-5G atmosphere. But God's
We're
put
definitely not in that world.
bioidentical molecules in nature, in yams, in herbs. Why did he put them there? But I love that other scripture in the Bible that says, it's glory of God to conceal a matter.
hide it. Yep.
And it's glory for kings to find it out. And we're all kings and priests and whatever. So I just think
So
it's
this
beautiful.
this is the treasure search. Well, and it's interesting. John has been in this deep dive into all of these books of the prophets and stuff that aren't canonized, but they're written by Ezra. And Ezra actually said in the last days that there would be poisons in the earth, but the things that would turn it around would be herbs. He actually said this is what's going to go on. So God always makes provision. When the enemy has a scheme, God already
Healings
has a plan.
of the leaves for the nations.
To the nations,
Yeah.
absolutely. And going back to what you were saying, this is you. How long have you been married? I mean,
31 years.
31 years. And how many years?
28.
28. So you're almost at 60 years right there.
Yeah.
And then John and I have been married for 43 years. So you're listening to women. I just want you to hear this out. You're listening to women who have gone through different seasons in their marriage, who have raised children. You have a grandchild. Do you have a grandchild?
No,
I have about 9 now.
You
Yeah.
okay, 9.
Lots.
So
Just lots.
Lots. We have offspring that have an offspring. We have reproduced. We have legacies. We are populating the earth. We are doing our part. But I hope you understand, we're not talking to our season alone. We're talking to God's people. See, the truth is, as yucky as stuff is, God has always had a Goshen. He's always had a people that he said, hey, I'm not going to bring the plagues of Egypt on my people. And you could say that's an Old Testament story. But see, there's things that you can grab and say, God, I'm believing that the diseases and the plastics, I mean, every time I'm on an airplane, they bring me a squishy airplane bottle. I'm like, oh, am I swallowing a credit card of microplastics right now? And I have to be like, you know what? I'm going to just pray that anything the enemy has put into my body, that it's going to be an asset. Does that mean I always do squishy? No. As much as it is in my power, I'm going to take care of myself. So I hope you understand these are women, and the Bible commands the older women to teach and train the younger women how to what? Do good and how to love their husbands. And right now, I feel like a lot of this has been lost. And so we want to set you up, because how do you do good when you feel bad? How do you love well when you feel awful?
But let's talk about, someone, especially Christian women, sometimes it's been like, well, you should have sex with your husband because that's the good thing to do.
It's like a duty.
Yeah, it's like a duty. But you know what? It's like Serene was saying, that person in the wheelchair getting up and doing Zumba. You know what?
It's a privilege.
Get to. And the health benefits from covenant sex. We've researched them because we're nerds.
Well, there's curses. There's anti-health benefits from outside covenant kits.
But covenant sex, huge. Do you know a husband's semen is actually like an antidote?
Well, let's just think. It has zinc in it. It has vitamin C. It has vitamin B12. And the vaginal tissue is like absorption beyond absorption, and it goes straight into the bloodstream. It also has 3 cancer-fighting agents. It has selenium, it has glycoproteins, and a transforming beta thing that I don't forget the exact name, but it is amazing because it actually turns on our killer cells.
Yeah.
Brings up our immune system.
And it's an antidepressant.
Yeah.
And it's incredible. I mean, our first book was full of these things. It's not like we have to. We are so blessed. It's a gift. And it's not just physicals. Like I said, well, take care of that problem. If there's a dry vagina, you don't even, if you're like a post-breast cancer, there's localized hormone creams that are fine to use that will work too. But it's just incredible because once you've passed that physical barrier, there's also the mental thing that we talk about, just like preparing yourself.
And that can happen to young women. That can happen to a woman
when
in
you
her
have young
20s.
children.
Right.
Oh my gosh, yes.
And they just get married, and they all of a sudden, it's all about being maybe the maid around the house and being the housekeeper, and forgetting that you're the bride. And the bride is not just for the wedding night. The bride is a continued identity that is your main identity once you're married, I mean, outside of daughter of the king and all of that, but as far as your relationship with your husband, because I feel like sometimes we can get so harried with the responsibilities of the home that we forget that, marking all the school papers or folding the laundry, hey, that can just go to the side when there's a groom waiting for you.
I do feel like religion, and when I say religion, I'm not referring to Christianity. I'm referring to religion where it has a depreciation of women, where it does not appreciate them other than the use of them. I do feel like that has stripped a lot of women of the beauty of femininity. I do feel like there's been a lot of backlash because women have felt like I'm just being used. I'm not adored. I'm not a bride. I'm a housewife. I'm not my husband doesn't see me as altogether lovely. He's not enthralled with my beauty. He's not, all of the things that how Jesus describes how he sees his bride is the antithesis of what their reality is. And so I do feel that sometimes the church has done a big disservice, when you're a woman and you hear things that are constantly maybe just an undercurrent of you're a problem, or you need to be silent, or you need to serve your husband, instead of like really actually understanding the scripture spends way more emphasis on the husband loving his wife, like Christ loves the church more than the time it spends on the woman's response to that love. It feels like it's the enemy constantly tearing apart the two that God wants to make one.
I agree, and I believe that 100%. And I think there's always that flip side to what the enemy's trying to do. And I feel like the enemy can sometimes come to us women too with a lens of that just makes us maybe just forget about how our tone and our voice, where our husband can be so attracted to us when we give them that respect even if they don't even deserve that respect, but just because they're on the other side of that marriage contract, and marriage contract is so holy and so sacred, and they're on the other side of that, and that deserves respect. And I feel like that beautiful life-giving tongue that we can have, in our marriage, and just the lens that we get to bring joy to our husbands. Sometimes that internal beauty that can come out, it's not even like the husband is, I think for attraction, sometimes there can be these beautiful models that can almost be like unattractive because their inside is harsh.
Well, they haven't had to work on it.
Right.
Because they relied
so
on
when there's that inner beauty that shines out, I feel like that can be a draw to our husbands.
Yeah, I mean, in our book, you talked about the maid. Like sometimes as wives, and I've been both, right?
Right.
We talk about the maid and we talk about the boss when our identity is the bride. I've been the maid where I've showing my husband just all I do, and come on, I do this and I do that. And then the flip side is like always being on his page, like I'm the boss of you, of what you wear, what you eat, whatever. I know best. I have been such an I know best wife at times.
I think probably everybody has. So I
but
appreciate your
as I'm
vulnerability.
walking into this identity of a bride, I think it's really beautiful because, like you said, a bride gets served too. And I found my husband loves to serve me and feels like a hero when he does, and me learning to accept that. I think it's so huge for us women just to learn to receive and not to do.
And we have learned that as we've gone along in our marriages, where we are more wrinkled, less of the beauty of the bloom, but our husbands being even more attractive to us now because we've learnt to be receivers of his love, to not complain about, oh, that's not a gift. Can I take those flowers back and get something I really want that's practical? Just all of that pushback to their love, and and maybe having that more harsh tone, like, oh, you put the dishes in this way, and it's just, that can be a turnoff, where that meek and quiet spirit, that can woo more beautifully than just having the perfect young body. So, that was what I would say to a woman. It's like, well, I don't feel desirable. There's that draw that can come.
You're saying you can cultivate something in a new season that's actually more beautiful than something that, because I always said you always look your best when you're the youngest, because that's when you're the stupidest. Like that's all you're working with. So you better figure out some ways to cultivate some other things. I love what you're modeling, because I hear a very different spirit in how you guys are saying this than even some of the things that I'm hearing from people who really want to help women, but they're almost saying, we women have our rights to enjoy sex. We women have our rights to hormone. Men have shut down these studies. That is not the spirit that I'm feeling here. What I'm hearing is, we want you to have vibrant health, vibrant life, vibrant marriage. And you are strong women. You are women who do things. You are women who accomplish things. And yet, it's obvious you believe in honoring men. And you don't need, and I think our culture does not understand that you can value women without dishonoring and devaluing men.
It's so good. It's so needed. I love your latest book, and you talk about this. Men have had their time lately where they've been kind of like trampled.
Yes.
It's been rough on men,
Yes.
and I want to I love men as a species. I have sons and a husband and a father, and they're good men.
Yes.
And of course, none of us are perfect, but I think you're right. We shouldn't come to this with, now it's our time, hear me roar. But, we have a voice, and we're all
and
equal.
we have a superpower. And then they have superpowers, but they're different superpowers. And I feel like, my husband has a superpower. He would lay down his life for me instinctually. I'd have to think about it for a while. I'd lay my life down for my children, but I'd have to think, well, it's probably his job to lay down his life for me. Like, it wouldn't mentally come natural, not instinctive. But I have a superpower, I believe, in my marriage. And I believe all of us women do. As the nurturer, almost the thermostat technician of my marriage, where, how women, we're intellectually, we're very, I think, advanced emotionally. It's a superpower. We can see when the cold walls are coming. We can feel when things are cooling off. We get the nuances and the hints. And I feel like we can be the nurturers of the marriage that nurtures that atmosphere and brings that the sweetness to the environment. And then I can let my husband have his superpower of leading and all of that. And it's just because we have our own roles, and it feels special because he can be on that role and I can be on mine, and they don't clash.
No, they shouldn't.
And what's it? It's the proverb that says a wise woman builds a home, but he didn't
14:1.
say it. Yeah, he didn't say a wise man builds a home. So it is this superpower. We have been gifted with it, whether we want it or not. Whether we think, well, that's not fair. He should build the home too. But
Well, and where is this thing coming from? Because I don't know if you've seen this, and I want to circle back around one thing that you said after I say this. You probably have seen this, but they're calling it the Michelangelo effect. Have you heard of this?
No.
Okay, so they said the best marriages have the Michelangelo effect. And I thought, well, how interesting. What is that? And it's one person sculpting the other the best way. Like setting them up in the best light, saying, I'm going to, you're just a block of stone, but I see that David inside of you.
see
Like,
it.
and John and I always say a good marriage is two people committed to bringing out the best in one another, not besting one another, not winning arguments, not saying I'm right and you're wrong, but saying, I see you here and this is what I see. And I've even had conversations, you're talking about emotional, awareness. My husband picks up things that I miss in certain areas, but when it comes to emotional intelligence, that would not be his superpower.
Yeah.
He's not stupid. But that's not his superpower. And so sometimes he'll have a response to something that I will know that he's having a rough time with how he's responding to something. And so I, as his wife, have to reframe it and say, listen, I know what you're hearing, but let me help you understand what was actually being said so that you don't have a reaction to this that is disproportionate to, what actually was said, because he's processing it in one way and then I can process it another way. So I think that is such a beautiful thing. I love the whole idea, like my husband is a masterpiece. And so I want to paint him the best. I want to talk well about him.
Yep.
Yes.
I want to use my superpower to sculpt him, and not nag him, not change him, but sculpt him. And it's two people reflecting one another in the best light.
And I feel like it's also sculpting him in your own mind.
Yes.
Because it's
gotta happen there
I can
first.
be like, I'm so blessed. I've got the best husband in the world in 1 hour by what I sculpt in my brain.
Yes.
Or I can sculpt a monster and
Yeah.
want to lead them in 1 hour of just whatever art form
That's
I'm
called
doing in my head.
perimenopause.
Exactly. But it's like what we think about is so important. And another thing I wanted to say about our superpowers as women of being nurturers, which is building. When you nurture something, you're building it.
It's protecting what's vulnerable.
Yes, in the Song of Solomon's, where it's actually thrown to the bride, where the groom says, hey, catch the little foxes for us, those little foxes that spoil the vine. That was not given to the groom. The groom gave that to us. And I feel like it's our job to be the nurturer, that thermostat technician, that's the one that, just doesn't take every offense, that tries to, sculpt it in the right way in our mind, where we're like, you know what, those were really harsh words, but I know his heart. Because we're catching that fox. We're catching those foxes of the lists of wrongs. Yes.
Yeah. Okay, so you mentioned about the superpower of having a sacred intimacy and then the destructive power. I mean, you probably have seen the young girl that said, I'm going to have sex with over 100 men in less than a 24-hour period. Did you see that? It was a British girl.
She's not on social media
Oh,
at
well,
all.
no,
so
it was
Could I
a drink.
was
It
a-
wasn't, it wasn't even on, it wasn't even so much on social. It was on the news. And so
I did not
it
hear
was,
that.
so she was, I think, whatever it is, OnlyFans or whatever star. And she hired over 100 plus men.
Yeah.
I mean, she made herself available, and now her goal is to sleep with 1,000. And the brokenness
Yeah.
that comes from something like that. And so I watched her interact with somebody, and at the end of it, she actually was crying.
Yeah.
But then she was like, "No, I'm going to go for 1,000." What does that do to her body?
Yeah, we talked about covenant sex and the blessings and the whole benefits, but I feel for her. I feel for her body because women have a vaginal biome, like we have a gut biome. And that vaginal biome actually adjusts itself to a man and to his semen and to one man. And it's really interesting, the science of it. And when there is multiple men, there is disarray in the body, and the vaginal biome becomes undone. And that affects our whole immune system. Sex.
And emotional.
Yes, our mental health, of course. We learn that 90% of serotonin is made in the gut because there's a biome, but so much is made in other parts of our body that we think it's all mental. It's coming from all these parts of our body. And
also, in covenant sex, there is that intimacy where it's not just about sex, there's about union of soul. And then oxytocin hormone, that bonding hormone is in there. And for men, it does rise a little bit. For women, you get a 5-fold increase of oxytocin. So that is a special, stress-busting gift just for women in married sex.
Yeah, that's covenant sex, though, because the oxytocin is really not there and outside of covenant because there's not the protection.
How interesting.
And, they did the study about how in married sex, it didn't compute with people outside of the covenant sex, but in married sex, people that had an average of like 4 times a week, that's 200 times a year, were given, I think, 6 years more.
7 years of longevity on average.
Added on. And the doctor was saying that he thought it was not just because of the oxytocin, the DHEA rise just before orgasm and things like that. He said it was a mental component, a spiritual component that he believed was part of that too.
Yeah. But I think, I'm sorry, I'm just going to talk about this, contending for married sex. When you hear about things like that and that poor young woman, what she's doing to herself mentally and physically, I feel like as Christian women, us 3 older women, I guess, I want to talk about contending as we get older for this such a beautiful part of our marriage, because I feel as Christians, those of us that have faith, we really should and can have the best, most exciting sex lives.
And that could be more holy than some of the things that we feel like is so holy.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Talk about what you were telling me in the car. I was like, no, this is just between me and you, Serene. I'm like, you got to bring it. If you ever are talking on a podcast, you got to bring this.
You can edit it out. Listen, it was a kind of a bad moment in my mind. It was kind of a bit of a judgy moment, maybe, because I didn't know these women. But, I'm coming into this 31st year of my marriage with my husband, and I'm contending for this because we've gone through things. He's 15 years older than I am. I went through menopause. He went through physical issues. Sex doesn't just keep happening in a marriage. It has to be intentional. It has to be intentional. Sometimes we have to amend the soil of our physical bodies. We have to, keep ourselves just honor our bodies to keep it going. Otherwise, it stops, and then that beautiful union is gone. But I was on a cruise ship, and it was kind of like one of those real cheapo cruise ships. Everyone's like beer and cigarettes. And I was kind of walking around, and then I noticed, oh my goodness, Serena, I can't believe you're making me say this. I noticed this group of little ladies, and they were in a corner and they had their Bibles out.
You said they were, really frumpy.
Oh, they were frumpy, man.
And unhealthy.
Yeah, they didn't look healthy.
They weren't trying to be attractive 1 ounce.
They were trying to be holy.
They were trying to be holy.
They were so holy. They asked me, would you want it? Because usually I've been on lots of cruise ships. You go into a little Bible study area that's off, and I've been to Bible studies on cruise ships. They said, oh, you want to sit down?
We're not against Bible studies.
Converting me.
We love Bible studies.
They were converting me because they didn't know who I was to their little Bible study. And I said, oh, no, I'm on my way to my cabin. I'm going to go see my husband. Thanks, though. And I thought to myself, but I don't think that those women, they're being so holy. But I'm like, I don't want to join their holy non-sex drive club. Okay. I don't want to. And that was my judgment. I'm saying it's easy for them to be holy. They've got no sex drive. But I just wanted to separate myself from that. I still want to be a Christian. I still want to love God, but I want a sex drive. I want that for my marriage, and I want to contend for that. We're blessed. Our parents are in their 80s, and they're open about how much they love each other, and they still get it on. Okay? They're in their 80s. Their parents before them, my grandparents, they were all over each other. And you know what? It's beautiful. And these days we tell children, be pure, stay pure, don't have sex before you're married. But they see so many parents that
non-electric marriages
Yeah.
lived out before
They're
them,
like,
and they're
I better do something now, or
sow
I'm gonna
my
have nothing in my
seeds.
future.
Right.
why do they want that? Well, it's like, I've got to have my fun now, but
I feel like the best education we can give our children is an electric marriage. And it doesn't have to be like R-rated in front of them, but a look in the eye, like, to each other across the dinner table, that they know what we're thinking. We can't wait for that dinner to end so we can go upstairs. That's important for them to see.
yeah, so I just divulged my judgy moment, but it's really important to me. It's what I'm contending for.
Because we think that is holy. That is service. To serve, it's not just serving our husband, which I think is beautiful, because I'm all about that. I don't want to be so feministic that it's just turned back now to all about us, because I'm into serving my husband, but it's about serving us, the unity, the union, the relationship, the togetherness. And I think that is, God put a whole book in the Bible about it, right?
He did. And I also think you see that Sarah was beautiful.
Yes.
And that, Rebecca was beautiful. That these men are like, hey, take them in the harem. They weren't looking like the women on the cruise ship. We need to have permission to not feel like, if you're attractive, then you're going to cause men to stumble.
Yeah.
Or if you're attractive, then you're immodest. Or if you're slender, then you have something out of order in your life and you should be fat and wearing Spanx, and then that would be healthy. Why? Why can we not be vibrant and healthy and strong? And so I understand your feelings on that, because it literally was.
Yeah, and people aren't talking about it, right?
Yeah.
We're not going around saying this, but maybe
No.
and we're not shaming anyone. We're
But
all
it was
on a
the same.
journey.
It's the same people that were like, women aren't allowed to speak.
Yeah.
But there's obviously gluttony, and I'm like, what is going on? There's something out of order. And what I hear with this is that you want to have holistic health. So in your marriage, and again, serving in that area of marriage, whether it is how you speak to your spouse, or how you prepare a dinner, or how you clean up after dinner, or how you speak to each other, the tone of constantly in front of other people.
Or how you don't clean up after dinner, leave it till morning, because you should just do some more fiery things. Feisty.
There we go.
Not feisty.
Might be
hot.
feisty.
Well, yeah, you said electric. I think electric was capturing
Go
it.
through the thesaurus.
Yeah, and no, that's
But
that's
before
amazing.
we end, can I do want
Absolutely.
there's
No, I
so
want
many
you to say
women
anything.
listening, I think, that are saying, but I want that, but my husband doesn't seem to. You hear it, right? I hear it.
I do.
And I think there's a lot of women in turmoil. And you know what they really get hurt by? When the church says to them, men want it all day, every day, and they think about sex every second, and women don't, and we're so different like that. And they're like, that's the opposite of my marriage. I want intimacy, and my husband's barely looking at me. And there's many reasons for that. Of course, there's porn, but sometimes it's not porn. Sometimes men are going through hardships in their physical bodies, and like they
And
feel
it's harder for them to talk about that, I think, because their
Yes.
ego, their confidence, and there's shame about it. That's just like, I'm not a man if I have ED. I'm not a man if I don't feel drive.
Yeah, and so we have a lot of resources in our book, to help men too, because we're
There's
just
two
about
people in that equation.
There's two people, and it's hard. It's brutal for marriages, and I think, sometimes it's just all about the woman, but men are going through these things too. And our passion is to restore this in marriages. No matter what, it's never too late. You know what? There's even penile implants out there now that men that,
We went there. Okay. Wow.
I think it needs to be talked about.
Yeah, I
because,
had no idea.
Because some men, prostate cancer, many men are never able to use that function again.
There can be venous leaks. There are all reasons why it can
Accidents,
happen.
and then this union is just suddenly stopped, and it can be traumatic for both husband and wife. And we give resources in the book. I just think sometimes it's just, obviously there's no way, right? And then it's just a beautiful love, and I just honor that. But if there's a way, this whole marriage thing, that's what sets it apart. And so I think contending for it, talking about it, I just think it's time.
Yeah. I love that. And I love that you went all the way from hormones and health, but you even have like micro needling. You have everything in here. So you have about physical beauty, you have about relational beauty. I feel like all of this is encapsulated in a way where somebody can say, oh wow, okay. And I do feel like Christian women, like I get all sorts of opinions, and people, when I decided to grow my hair out gray, just because mainly I'm lazy, people were like, you've just let yourself go. You used to be attractive. Why don't you color your hair? You've just let yourself go. Or they'll say things like, well, your face looks good, but your real age shows on your neck. And no, it's okay. It's okay. And I just wrote back. I said, hey, I'm 65 this June, and I love my neck. And I love my 9 grandkids. And I love my husband. And I love this. And so then I got to get a chance to do micro needling, and people were like, are you doing that because people said about your neck? No. I just thought, why not? Somebody was like, you can do this and it's healthy. I thought, I want to take as good care, and I get to choose. I get to choose whether I want to wear makeup or don't wear makeup.
Why not restore
color your hair.
collagen in your skin, right? Why not? Your hair looks amazing. I've never seen you look more beautiful.
Well, thank you.
And we get horrible comments all the time too. Just people on social media, just free reign.
Well, I'm so thankful for your book, and I want to give you an opportunity to speak directly to the camera and to the women out there that are maybe feeling hopeless or don't know they have permission to just, if you can just tell them that.
Well, I would like to say that if you're afraid, if you feel like you're over the hill, if you feel like there is just no hope for you, or if you've seen in your family, the devastation of disease, of cancer, and you're like, I'm on that gangplank, I'm walking there, and I just don't have hope in my life anymore. There is so much hope, and there are answers, and they're not difficult, and they're not expensive, and there are little steps you can take, and there are other choices that you may not want to make, but you could look into it that are just going to bring so much room for your future, for a light to shine in it, and for strength, and for beauty, for relationships, and for you to feel joy, not just in your internal inner man, but in your cells, because health is just zinging forth.
But I think with health too, there's so much confusion right now. I mean, I'm a researcher, and yet I have felt confused at times. There is
It can feel overwhelming.
So much information out there. And I think some of it is even infiltrating the church when you look in the Bible and it's kind of, well, hold on, I gave you all the food groups and now you're taking them out. Hold on. And so where's the truth? And so this has been our passion, trying to find it all and just trying to get to the bottom of what is holistic health, as well as embracing cutting edge science. And that's what we did in this book. And I think as a woman, if you're close to 40 or past 40, or you're in your 60s, maybe 70s, and you just feel so like it's for, this for the younger ones, I would say that your best years can be ahead of you. And that's what we're bringing here, that I want my best years to be ahead of me, and I'm feeling now like they are.
Yeah.
I just want you to hear what they're saying. You have been positioned in older years to have a richness in your life. You do not have a depletion or my best years were when my kids were toddlers. Do you remember when they were toddlers? You were thinking one day they'll be in school. So you have to understand the strength of your season right now. And I believe this book is an incredible tool. But I want to just echo what both Pearl and Serene have said to you. You have full permission to be lovely. I love that Ecclesiastes says God makes all things beautiful in its time. And there's certain beauty of being 20, and then there's a certain beauty of being a 70 and 80-year-old woman. I don't know what your season is, but I want you to have full permission to have beauty in this season and have strength, not to be weak, not to be broken, not to be frail, not to be faltering. And so I was so excited about hosting them for this particular podcast. And I hope that everybody here makes themselves available. They can follow your podcast. What's your podcast called?
Sure, Trim Healthy Podcast.
Trim Healthy Podcast.
Everything's at trimhealthymama.com.
Yeah, we're going to put it all in our notes. You can get a hold of their books. It's available now through Amazon. Is that correct?
We also have an audiobook
Still
as well.
on our website, coming out on Amazon soon.
Okay, so you can watch for it on Amazon. And these are the kind of things that we want to bring to you. We just want to see you grow into everything that God has for you. We need the wisdom on your life. We need the richness in your marriage. We need the legacy. We want to see legacy in every single aspect of your life and of your marriage. And so if this is ministered to you, I'm going to challenge you to share this with other women. And I'm going to challenge you to subscribe to this podcast, because this is just the beginning. And I am so honored that you would share your time with us.